You're watching Lesson T Live. Brian Kroll along with David Leadbetter, and we're watching Mark Ring, who has a problem with the slice. David, help him out.
Well, let's have a look at Mark here. He stands to the ball very well. It's good, great setup there, Mark. Let's see what happens as he swings back. Looks like he gets the club a little late off at the top. Let's have a look. Go back. We'll do it in slow motion now. The big thing I think that he needs to fix is get the butt of the club moving closer to his right leg as he starts back. We can see, Brian, this is a common problem. A lot of people, they take the club out. So from here, the club gets into a laid-off position. And as a result now, as he comes down, the club face is wide open coming to the ball. I imagine hits a lot of shots off the heel here. You can see, look how open the face is. So all I'd like him to do is get his hands a little closer, club on line, and big feeling there as you come down, Mark. Feel that the club face is closed rather than open. That should fix the slice.
Great advice, Mr. Leadbetter, and plenty more to come. The show starts now. Hello and welcome to Lesson T Live, the golf instruction show powered by you. I'm Brian Kroll, PGA professional from the Met section, and this week we're joined by David Leadbetter, coach for some of the game's greatest players and the head of the David Leadbetter Golf Academy. Play better, swing better, score better, Leadbetter. Great to have you here.
Hey, great to be here.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
I can't wait to hear what you've got going on tonight. Tell us, give us a little preview.
All right, well, what we're going to help the folks out there with today is talk in terms of how they can synchronize their swing and how they can sequence their swing. Because in my opinion, if you can get those two aspects right, you can play some great golf. There's lots of different swings around, but when players are playing well, they're well synced up and they're in sequence. So we're going to show them how to do that.
Anxious to hear about that. But first, let's welcome in the third member of our crew, Annabelle Raleigh, who monitors our social media. Annabelle.
Thank you, Brian. We want your questions and comments. Send them to us on Twitter using hashtag LessonTLive and on the Golf Channel Academy Facebook page. We're also taking your Instagram photos and swing videos. I'm monitoring all your posts throughout the show, so start sending them in now. Brian, over to you.
Okay, David, you mentioned swing sequencing and synchronizing. Let's hear it.
All right, well, let's look at the swing. Basically, you've got two important elements in the swing, Brian. You've got the body movement, the trunk. If we cut our arms off, that movement. And we've got the movement of the club, the hands, the wrists, and the arms. And the key is to try to blend those two elements or components together. In other words, if I do this little exercise, you can see it's almost like a small circle that my body swings on and a big circle that the club swings on. We want the small circle and the big circle to be timed with one another. So basically, when we finish the backswing rotation, or people call it turn, I call it winding up, or rotation is a much better word in my opinion. When we finish the rotation, the club wants to finish its movement. So now as I start forward, in sequence, as my lower body starts to go forward, now all of a sudden, everything is following in the right chain. It's what we call the kinetic chain, where the energy goes from the lower to the upper to the arms to the hands. The problem that so many people have is that they sort of, a lot of people, they overturn and their arms lift and they get all sorts of problems. And you could really, even with top players, you find a lot of times that what happens is the arms, what we call run on, then the body goes, and there's a sort of a lack of synchronization, let's say, between the body and the arm. So the key really is learning how to sequence the whole swing and to get things working in unison. So it's like a little cog driving a big cog, the little cog being the inside circle, the big cog being the outside circle. And how we time those two together, to me, is the key for consistency.
One thing, let me take you right back to the beginning. As far as that first move back, sometimes we see a little handle drag. Should the club head go first? Should it go in unison with the arms? Talk about the first move back.
Well, let's talk about that, because why do people get out of sync? Okay, it really happens, assuming that your grip and your posture is good. I mean, that's a given. But the big thing we see, first of all, is that we see players do this. I mean, that's, I know Jim McLean calls it the death move. And it really is a death move where the club sort of whips inside. And we see that time and time again. People are taking the club back. So the first key is to get what I call the hands. We saw the tip earlier with Mark. We talked about getting the butt of the club closer to his leg. Look how my hands stay inside the club head, or as I like to say, the club head outside the hands. Very important here, folks, to make sure that happens. You do not want the club head getting behind your hands. That really starts this synchronization problem. So a good little drill, split your hands about an inch. As you move it back there, just so the butt of the club's just past your right leg, you want to make sure that you feel a couple of things here. The club face feels like it's still looking at the ball. You don't want the club face or the arm rotating. The other thing is you want to make sure your right arm is on top of your left arm. Instead of the right elbow, we always have people trying to get that right elbow in close. Well, that sort of creates this rolling action. So if you get a good start, now you're in perfect position now to get the club set. Now, this gets to the second point. I'm going to put the ball on a tee here because this is, you can actually work at this. You don't actually, let's see if we can do that.
Let me come right in here. I want to help you out here. So we'll put it right about here.
Perfect. You make a great caddy. Thanks, Brian.
Excellent.
Okay. So here's a little exercise. You want to put on a tee to start with, but the key really is that once you get to about halfway back, you probably want to have 2/3 of your rotation here. And the big key from here is that you finish the backswing with the rotation. You don't finish the backswing with the arms. This is the whole trick here, really. If you can feel like, hey, that the backswing completes almost in unison the arms and the rotation, you're going to have, you're going to see so much more consistency because we see so often it's like the turn finishes, the arms go, then the body, it's everything's out of sync.
You know, I heard something from Bernhard Langer, which I thought was great. When his shoulders and his core are finished turning, he thinks that's it for his arms too.
Absolutely, I agree 100%. So here's an exercise you can actually work on. You swing it back, get to about your, say, halfway point, maybe just short of that, and then from here, simply complete your rotation and hit the ball. It's a great exercise because it really gives you the feeling of being able to finish the backswing with the wind up or the turn. So, all right, so tee up one more for me. Thanks, Brian.
I can do it. You're getting bolder now.
I'm asking you to do it. Yeah, here we go. All right.
Okay.
Now, here's the sequencing deal. Now, this is an interesting one. To start with, you probably don't want to use a ball. Get your stance, and this is really going to help you down. Because sequencing is all about how, as Jack Nicklaus describes it, that you start from the ground up. So it goes lower body, then upper body, then arms, then hands, then club. People tend to go, from the top down instead of from the bottom up, right? So here we go. So you get your stance. It's a interesting little drill here. You then narrow your feet, okay, get the ball off your front foot. And the whole key here now is as you swing back, you want to feel like you're stepping into it. Just like a batter in baseball, because as they step into it, their lower body goes first, then the upper body, and then the arms and the hands follow, okay? So if you're having problems with slicing, I mean, this is a great cure because what happens as you start to move your lower body, the club starts to shallow. And this is what we see with so often with so many players. They start down with the upper body, the arms and the shoulders. The club is steep coming down. So this is a great way of shallowing the club, getting the right sequence, and then also delivering the power at the right moment. That's the key.
Do you think people get a little too hung up on being centered? We hear about being centered so much, but what I'm seeing you do is there's a little lateral bump to your down.
Yeah, I mean, I think, look, there's obviously all sorts of theories about how centered you want to stay. I always feel that, look, that you are loading into your right side on the backswing, and there's definitely a lateral movement. I mean, if anything, certainly with your irons, you want to be a little bit more ahead of it. We're going to talk about the driver later, getting some power, and then you're going to be a little bit more behind it. But with the irons, certainly, you want to get on top of it. That's how you hit down on the ball. So here's this exercise. So we've got a fairly high tee here, so I'm just going to hold the club off the ground here. But you can see what I'm going to do. I'm very narrow. So as I swing back, then I'm going to step into it and try to time this movement. So here I go. So nice narrow stance, ball off the front foot. Make it back here, and it's amazing. If you look at that, you will see that the lower body starts, the arms, the hands follow, and that's how you sequence your swing. So if you can learn to sync it up going back, finish the backswing with the wind up, learn to use your lower body correctly, do that drill. So when you're actually hitting balls, you don't literally have to step into it when you're playing, obviously, but it's a feeling that you're actually moving to the front foot before everything else starts, and then from there you can start to clear. And it's a great way of syncing and sequencing your swing.
Beautiful. And you make it look very easy as well. Thank you very much, David. Let's check back in with Annabelle, who's tracking our social media pages.
I sure am. Thanks, guys. All right, so you're flooding our inboxes, which is great. So keep them coming, and we'll read them throughout the night. David will start answering your questions when we come back. Tonight's teacher also works with 3 of the biggest stars on the LPGA Tour. So we want to know, which student's drill would you like David to teach? A Michelle Wee full swing drill, a Lydia Ko backswing drill, or a Jessica Corder leverage drill? Let your voice be heard right now at golfchannel.com/vote, and we'll reveal the winner in just a few minutes. You're watching Lesson T Live.
Lesson T Live, brought to you by Now introducing the Bushnell Tour Z6 Jolt. Experience the speed, feel the jolt. Grip confidence. Grip golf pride.
Welcome back. We're interested in hearing about your favorite club tonight. The tweets are pouring in. Nate says, 5-iron off the tee. I have no fear leaning on it and getting an extra 15 to 20 yards, putting it anywhere in the fairway. Wow, Nate, I wish I could do that. And Jake Munsell jokes, ball retriever, because legally it's considered a club. Very funny, Jake. There's always a joker. And we have about 5 minutes left in the live vote. We want to know which lesson you want to see from David from one of his LPGA Tour stars. Go to golfchannel.com/vote. Brian, over to you.
Thank you, Annabelle. Ball retriever. David, we have a couple of questions from our viewers as well. Up first, a tweet from Eric. Any good drill for shifting weight from right to left side in the downswing? Thanks from Swede, tired of the right rough.
All right. Well, I think we should actually do this little exercise without the club because, you know, weight transfer is an interesting thing. And I talk more about foot pressure than weight transfer. Yes, there is a weight transfer, obviously. The problem is when you just think in terms of shifting your weight, you can slide, you can, if you want to call it a forward sway. If you can think of it this way, this would make it a lot easier. If you just do a little drill like this, just wrap your hands around your midsection, swing back, make your movement back, feel some pressure in your right heel, because this is important, because to make the correct movement coming down, you need to make the correct movement going back. So feel the pressure going to your right heel, then move the pressure into the front of your left foot. So the feeling is right heel, front of the left foot, and then back to the heel. You'd be amazed, that is the easiest way really to get the feeling of weight transfer. Because if you think of pressure rather than weight transfer, then you don't get all the big muscles, the hips and the shoulders overworking. So very simple, just do this simple exercise here. Right heel, front of the left foot, that gives you this down pressure, and then from here, clear, and that weight transfer will take care of itself. So work on that exercise.
Very cool. That's a great little drill. Now, from Facebook, a question from Jeff Watson. What's a good drill to stop coming over the top? Should right elbow be real close to the hip at impact for a right-handed golfer?
Well, you know, that's the, listen, that's a never-ending question. I think that question's been asked since the game was started.
That's a popular one.
Yeah, how do you stop coming over the top, you know, the outside-in swing? You know, funny enough, I mean, look, we all hear about, well, we've got to come from the inside and the club's got to be tracking in this direction and we've got to release it, so it's a little more into-out, obviously. You know, I want you to think about something here. You want to practice actually standing open. It sounds strange to say this, but if you practice standing open, a little bit like Lee Trevino, okay? Stand open, make your movement back, and then actually feel like the club's move in the opposite direction to where your body's pointed. So you stand open, swing the club back on your body line, and then just feel like you're actually rerouting the club. So you can see it actually helps to create this movement. It's strange to feel, because what most people do when they aim to the right, they then actually swing to the left. So actually practice, say, standing open, just hit little shots here, stand open, just feel like the club is dropping behind you. I'll try to illustrate one here. You take it back and then just drop it back. Boom. And you get this feeling, because that stops the over-the-top movement. If you do that, the right elbow all of a sudden does get into the side, and all the things you're trying to do happen. So, hey, stand open, take it back, and then feel like the club's dropping back in this direction. So try that.
Kind of reverse the loop.
Exactly.
Very nice. And we have a tweet. It's a putting question from Lee Vickers. He wants to know where the eyes should focus, on the backswing or the ball itself. Maybe we should head over here to the putting area.
Okay. Well, that's a question. Lee, I'd hate to play darts with you, because, I mean, you must be watching the dart go back and so forth, you know. It's like you've got to keep your eyes focused on the ball. And one of the worst things you can do, Brian, is literally let your eyes wander, you know. So, you know, a good little tip you might want to try, I mean, and Johnny Miller did this years back, but I actually want you to look at the hole. That takes your mind actually off watching, or your eyes certainly off watching the ball. I mean, and in fact, you know, going back to darts, I mean, you think about it, we're actually looking at the dartboard. So if you're having problems with your eyes wandering and sort of looking at the putter going back, which I assure you want to try to keep your eyes on the ball, just look at the hole. Just stand there, look at the hole, okay, and just focus on the hole and just make your stroke. And if you can do that, you know, it'll help to I think, create positive feelings, and it'll improve your stroke.
Very cool. I wonder how many people are going to be going out there not looking at the ball tomorrow. Anyway, let's get back to Annabelle. We have some final numbers from our live vote. I can't wait to hear the results.
That's right, Brian. We asked you to choose a lesson that David has been working on with one of his top students, Michelle Wee, Lydia Ko, and Jessica Corder. And the winner is Michelle Wee with a whopping 42%. She's had a great year. David, time to share some secrets.
All right. Well, let's go back over here, Brian. It's interesting. I mean, it's a shame that she's been injured the last few weeks because her game was really coming around. Obviously, it was just wonderful to see her win at the U.S. Open. And those of you that watched her play there, I mean, she really had great control over the ball. And that's one of the things. What we've done really is to shorten the swing. And you'll notice that her swing, certainly during the U.S. Open, was very compact. And she's a great athlete, and she has the ability to keep this swing very short and create full coil. And that's one of the things that I really like to see in a swing, is that you have a nice, short, compact arm swing. I'm bringing out a new book called The A Swing, which is going to come out early next year. And it's all about it's economy of movement. And that's one of the things that Michelle really has. She has a very strong setup. She winds it back, very full rotation here, short arm swing, club very loaded. But then as she's winding up, it gives her a chance for a low body to start moving forward. It's amazing. You watch her swing in slow motion, and you'll see how as she's starting to move forward as she's still going back. That's the key. If the long hitters all do that, and she's obviously one of the longest hitters.
Maybe a taller player like Michelle, maybe that's even more pertinent to get that feeling of loading up early and firing forward.
Absolutely. I think if you look at the modern swing, yes, we know obviously John Daly and obviously Bubba Watson today have these long swings, but really they're in the minority. You don't see those longer swings. And generally speaking today, especially at the tour players level anyway, much more of a compact variety. So one of the things I say that everybody can work on, and this is an excellent drill, and you see a lot of coaches working on it, but just start forward and then swing back and then move forward in this direction, because this double directional move, if you will, while you're going this way and going that way. So just simply hold the club above the ball like so, swing it back, and as you're completing your wind-up, just feel like your lower body's starting to go forward. And it creates that sort of momentum, and it's a great way of doing it.
Really looks like you're gathering power during that little transition there, too.
Yeah, Michelle does it great. Yeah.
Beautiful stuff. Much more to come tonight on Lesson T Live. Remember, it's Long Drive Month here at Golf Channel. When we return, David shares his go-to drills to help you get longer off the tee. But before we go long, David has another quick tip for you when Lesson T Live returns. 90 seconds. Don't go away. Welcome back, and David Leadbetter, we have a bonus minute here. Could you give us a universal tip in 60 seconds that can help a wide array of viewers?
60 seconds. Well, hey, sometimes the shortest tips are the best, Brian, so let's have a go. I think, one of the things that a lot of players have, especially when on the golf course, they think too much. There's a lot of things that you could think about. How you take the club back, how you finish the backswing, how you start the downswing, impact. I mean, there's a lot of stuff, and a lot of people do think of all that. But here's one simple tip. Remember, most people tend to hit at the ball instead of swinging through the shot to the finish. So the one thing I want people to try to think about is swing to your finish. Okay, so whatever backswing you make, okay, especially on the golf course, this is a great thought here, folks. Work it back here. Get to your finish and hold it. You can see I'm in a position where, hey, my body's all the way through. My hands are high, my right shoulder's to the target there. I could relax the club here. My weight's on my left side, perfect. So just think of your finish, and remember, even if you hit a bad shot, at least you look good.
You do look good. A universal tip. Plenty more with David Leadbetter after this.
We're back to Lesson T Live. We want to see which club you feel most comfortable with. Our first one comes from a 10-year-old golfer whose favorite club is the driver. It goes far and straight every time. I wish mine did. Next up, Andy Blackburn is a fan of his hybrid. It has helped him tremendously off the tee, and he's absolutely in love. Hashtag hybrids are the future. I'm glad you're feeling the love. And finally, an awesome shot from Alexander Caron. Always loved my 7-iron, but my first ace made it the hands-down favorite forever. First ace is a memorable moment. It doesn't get much better than that. Keep the hot shots coming on Instagram with the hashtag LessonTLive. Brian, over to you.
Thank you, Annabelle, and welcome back to Lesson T Live. I'm Brian Kroll with our guest this week, David Leadbetter. And David, I have a feeling you have more to share with us about long driving.
The long ball. I know you had some long hitters in here this past week. You know, when I hit, it's going to sound like the head covers on it. But that's
420.
Okay.
420.
Right.
It's crazy.
So, here we are. Look, I'm going to give you the 3-up rule. Okay. First of all, it's set up. Okay. We've got to set up. The second up is wind up. And the third up is hit up. There is a fourth up. It's called throw up. And if none of this works, that's what's going to happen. And hopefully it's not give up either. So anyway. So here we go. All right, so the big key is setting up to it. You want to get that ball forward in your stance, okay? You know, we get so many people coming down to our Callaway Performance Center Champions Gate, and we test them out. And the only way really to get real distance on it is to hit up on the ball. You don't want to hit down on the ball. So part of that, you've got to get that ball forward in your stance. Almost sort of, I like it sort of almost off your left armpit. That's, you know, it's forward almost off your heel, but think of your left armpit. It's closer to home. It's easier to think about. Slightly widen the stance, and if anything, you want your hands maybe fractionally back of the ball, okay? That's the key. The final thing is pop that left hip up in the air. This is a big thing, Brian, because what it does, it tilts your spine away from the target, because, you know, when you hit it, you've got to be in this position. You can't be like that. So once you set up to from this wider stance, say pop that left hip up in the air about maybe an inch higher than the right, then you're in a position where you feel you are behind it to start with. Okay. Second thing is wind up. Now, we do a lot of different pivot drills, but this is the best one in my opinion, because what you want to try to do, you want to feel like you're spiraling as you turn back. In other words, it's like a coiling, you know, it's like uncorking a wine bottle. And you might want to have some of that before you try these long drives as well. That'll help relax you a bit more. But here, what I'm going to do, I'm put my right hand down by my right knee, my left hand here. You see my right hand's actually lower. As I move back here now, my hands reverse. My left gets lower, my right gets high. And you can see it's almost like I'm spiraling. I'm hiking my hip, and it's an upward movement. It allows you to sort of get really in a nice wound up position there. And you really coil, you feel your midsection winding, you feel your chest winding, and it's a great feeling. So rather than just turning, I hate the word turn because turning is a very weak movement. This is a strong movement. So work on this. It's like a piston movement. You can see it. Feel the pressure staying on the inside of your right foot, but there we go. So that's the wind up. Now, the hit up, okay, is to make sure that when you hit it with an iron, we're going to be a little bit more on top of the ball. With a driver, we're going to be more behind it. So don't be afraid to sort of stand up out of it. You hear about straightening and hitting into a solid left leg. That's important because, you know, as in baseball, you watch a batter. I mean, it's like the whole left side is straightening up. So even if you lose your spine angle a little bit with the driver, remember the ball's teed up. It's fine to do that. So here we go. We sort of set up to it. Slightly wider stance. I also like to have maybe my right foot pulled back just a touch. Hip up, okay? Now I'm going to wind up, and I'm going to really feel like I'm actually going to almost stand up as I hit up, okay? So everything is up, okay? So, and the other thing is, Brian, I would say, try to keep your arms relaxed. Trying to hit a long way, you don't need to grip it like this. You want to relax those arms because the softer your arms are, the more speed you can have. So I'm going to have a go here. Here we go. So we set up to it here. I'm going to wind up. Oh, a straight one. There's a shock.
Beautiful. Right down the middle. And what I love is that feeling of bumping that hip forward because so many players, when they're trying to kill it, seem to
Well, you see so many people
ball.
Set up with a driver like this. Yeah, how are you going to hit a driver like that? You know, with an iron maybe, but it gets... So remember, set up, wind up, hit up. And you got it.
Time's up. Okay, here we go. Thank you, David. We have a few more questions on getting longer off the tee. And question number one is Thomas King, and he tweets, I've got an issue when my wrist sets on the driver's swing. At times it's late, at times it's early. How do I stabilize and set that wrist hinge consistently?
Well, it's interesting. I mean, you do get players who sort of set the club. I mean, if you take Jack Nicklaus or Greg Norman, very, very wide. I think the modern swing really is where the club is setting a much earlier. So what my feeling is that once your hands, if you move everything away together with your core, it's not just moving your hands and arms on their own, if you relax your arms and just move your core, you want to get the feeling and say that your hands are just maybe just slightly past your right leg. We call this sort of the 8 o'clock position relative to a clock face. So from here, this is where the hinging should take place. And to me, a lot of it is done with the right wrist. So setting with that right wrist, and just start forward slightly. I mean, this is a great exercise. I mean, years ago I worked with Greg Norman some, and this is about the only drill you would ever do, is start forward, come back, and actually, boom. We all wish Greg Norman sort of a quick recovery too from that horrible accident he had. And we can see as I move back here, it's a setting action. So I would say to you, if you can actually just get the whole thing moving together, this establishes the width, and then from just past your right leg, let your right wrist hinge. If you can do that, you'll hinge it at the right time.
Very nice. Advocating kind of an earlier hinge.
Absolutely, yeah.
Excellent. Next up, Jonathan wants to hit the ball longer as well. He posts, I get too much spin with my driver and lose too much distance. What can I do?
Well, first thing, you want to maybe check the driver, okay? But once again, we just spoke a little while ago about hitting up on the ball. If you want to get, if you want to get more distance, you literally have to increase your launch angle and reduce the amount of spin. That's important. So what I would suggest you do is get that ball forward in your stance. And when you set up to the ball, would you mind teeing one up for me, Caddy? Thank you very much.
I will certainly do that.
All right, there you go.
And we're going to put that right about here.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Oops.
All right, so, well, I'll tell you, some of these caddies aren't as good as they used to be.
It's
but
a live
anyway,
show. It's a live show.
Okay, here we go. Look, get that ball forward. Get the club off the ground. Okay, give it sort of a Jack Nicklaus or a Nick Felder. Sir Nick Felder, sorry. Get the ball, hold the club off the ground. That will encourage you to sweep it. So, to me, if you can relax and get that club face slightly off or club head slightly off the ground, it gives you the feeling that you're going to sweep it, and the more feeling that you can hit up on it. Remember, iron is different to a driver. Iron hitting down on, a driver you're hitting up on. So if you can learn to do that, that should decrease that spin and get more roll when the ball hits the fairway.
And that hover probably keeps the tension out of your arms a little bit better.
Absolutely
as well.
It does. Yeah, absolutely.
Very good. Great stuff. Now let's get back over to Annabelle and find out what's coming up next with social media.
Thank you, Brian. We have much more still to come. We just talked about distance off the tee. Next, I'm going to help you create the perfect swing for every club in the bag. Plus, legendary teacher Bob Toski joins us to do what some people say is the impossible. Hit a draw. Lesson T Live continues next. Welcome back to Lesson T Live. Let's get started with a Twitter question from Jesse Goffany. What are your keys to a tidy draw? Nice question, mate. All right, so thanks for that. And we sent your question to legendary swing coach Bob Toski to help you out.
Jesse, to draw the ball, we must then aim the golf club slightly to the right of our line of play. This is the line of play, and the club should be aiming to the right of the line. And I suggest that when you draw the ball, start with a club that has more loft to swing the club with less speed so you can control the face and angle of the golf club. I've got a 7-iron in my hand here, and when I aim to the right, you'll notice that foot joint, the grip here is facing to the right, and my shoulders turn to the right. So when you strike the ball, your shoulders should be closed, and the club should turn to the right and turn over around the body. Now, that makes the hands and arms travel faster, which gives you more club head speed. Most people that swing the club head toward their body dissipate the force, lose the angle, and don't get a lot of club head speed. So once you aim to the right, you must swing the club on this line of play, not on this line of play. This line is in to out, and you must then feel the force of the club turning over and releasing around your body. Watch and see if I make a slight draw here. See the ball turn back to the left. When I teach, Jesse, when I teach all students to do that, try to do it with a slow rhythmic swing to get the feel of where the club is traveling, and then gradually increase the speed of the swing with a longer golf club.
Thanks, Bob. That was very nice. Okay, I got a question that keeps rearing its head, and it is, Annabelle, why do I hit my irons better than my woods? And before I go into the technical part of my delivery, I'm going to give you a tip. And it is to get to know your swing. It's almost like a courting process. You really want to know your individual move. That way, when you're watching Golf Channel, me or any other instructors, it'll help you ascertain what's relevant to you. And you can take some information and you can leave some information. So that's my first tip. Now, let's get into the irons versus woods. There's a bit of a misconception that's floating around out there that suggests that there's one way you swing the golf club regardless of what club you've got in your hand. Now, in some ways that's true because fundamentally the biomechanics of your golf swing aren't going to change very much at all. However, depending on how long the club is that you have in your hands, a couple of things are going to change dramatically. So here I have a pitching wedge. This is a short club, and I'm going to take my setup position. Now, naturally, because it's short, I'm closer to the ball, okay? So because I'm closer, my upper body is more over the ball as well. So this is going to create a steeper shaft angle here and a steeper angle of attack coming into the ball, which is awesome because this is exactly what this club is designed to do. We're supposed to hit down with our irons, trap the ball nicely between the club head and the ground, hit down on it, ball goes up. Awesome. I'll show you how it's done. Really simple. Straight one too. All right, so now I'm going to talk about your woods. Now, I'm going to set up, get a ball, set up, and because this club is longer, I'm further away from the ball, and my upper body is more erect, so I'm standing up a little bit more. This is going to naturally, without me manipulating anything, create a flatter shaft angle and a shallower angle of attack. So, you often hear us saying you want to sweep your longer clubs. That's exactly what you want to do. So going back to what I was talking about earlier, about getting to know your swing, that's exactly what you need to do. Maybe you're hitting your irons with too much of a sweeping action, or the reverse. Maybe you're hitting your woods, hitting down on it too much. So you really need to get to know the idiosyncrasies of your swing. So get it on film, ask your mates to have a look and figure it out together. And I promise you, you'll be laughing all the way to lower scores in no time. Okay, so coming up, we've answered some of your swing questions, but we're not done. When we come back, we're going to look at your swing videos with David Leadbetter, next on Lesson T Live.
Welcome back to Lesson T Live. I'm Brian Kroll, joined by renowned instructor David Leadbetter, and we are answering your questions, showing your comments, and right now we're looking at your swings. And David, first up we have Manajav. Take a look at this swing.
Manajav, okay.
We'll call him Mano.
Mano, yeah, Mano for sure. That's a lot easier. Okay, well, let's have a look at Mano. And apparently, I think he was a slicer, and now he's a hooker. Okay, right. So we'll turn you back into a slicer there, Mano. No, only kidding. All right, so let's see what's going on here. Okay, so we're gonna sort of let this. We'll go in slow motion here. Actually, you got a very solid swing. I mean, the thing is, it's interesting. I'm just gonna let this go through one more time here. Okay, and we'll go back again. Okay. It's interesting you see so much more in slow motion than do it at normal speed there, Brian. But watch as I go here. I'm going to say he sets up quite nicely, maybe a little too much weight back on his heels, which tends to drag the club a little bit around him. But the big thing is he's got the face a little bit too close. In my opinion, okay, and this is obviously one of those areas that people talk about a lot, I'd like to see that club face hanging down more. So I would check his grip a little bit, maybe weaken his right hand a bit. It's hard to see from this angle, but I'd like to see the club face hanging down a little bit more, a little more matching his arm, maybe even a little bit more than that. Because the big thing is he comes down, we can see here that the club face tends to get a little bit close. And that's probably why he just hits a few pulls. But it looks very, very solid. So I would just say, hey, keep a little bit more cup at the top of the backswing and try to keep that cup coming down. Very simple.
Yeah. Used to hook. He probably overdid it a little bit.
Probably,
Time to bring him back a touch. Next up, we've got Elna Clauder. Let's take a look at Elna's swing.
All right, Elna.
Let it play first.
I'll let it go here. All right. Okay. Elna looks like a pretty good swing there. I think one of the things is we notice here, I mean, she's obviously very flexible. I mean, I think if most people swing like that, they better have their chiropractor handy. But I mean, it's interesting how, she's really sort of exaggerated that sort of one-piece takeaway. There's really no set at all with the wrists. And you can see it's interesting how she's able to get the club back this far. No set, no set, no set, no set, no set. It's almost like maybe the, and look as we come down, let's see, little toppling to the left side a little bit there. All right, now as we come down here, so she's, let's see here, so she, a little bit of angle there, but the big thing I say, she needs to learn to use her wrist better. I mean, and you see even through the shot there's not very little wrist action. So let's walk over
How
here.
can we get her hinging a little bit better?
Yeah, we've got get a little bit more set going on here. And I've got a nice little tool here, which I brought out a few years ago. It's called the swing setter, and it's got these 2 magnetic balls here, and you can, if you're interested in getting one of these things, we actually sold a lot of these on infomercial. We had we sold about 500,000 of them. I think 400,000 were sent back, but that's okay. So, but the thing is, okay, it's got different clicks, different sort of amount of tension on there. But the big thing is that, see, you can hear the snap here. So the big thing we want her to do is to get this club setting earlier. So you really want to soften the hands, soften the arms, get the club set. So I would say really when you're about halfway back there, to make sure that she's got the club fully set halfway back. I mean, she's got it, I mean, my goodness, she's going all the way back, and just hitting little shots with wedges will really help her. So all I would suggest you do, relax the hands and arms, and make sure when you're halfway back, make sure your wrists are fully cocked halfway back, because then from here, just complete the turn and off you go. And she'll find that she'll have more power with less effort. So getting the club set's important.
You see that right hand is helpful in that too. Kind of creates that angle.
Absolutely.
Well, we've got more, Mr. Leadbetter. Let's take a look at Rommel Pinilli.
All right, Rommel.
There he is.
Okay, right. Well, looks like he's practicing next to a dome here.
I'll see if I can.
Right, let's have a look here. Oh, big, strong guy. My goodness, look at that. And not a bad action. Let's have a look here. So I think the first thing we want to do is sort of look at his setup. We can see how he's very open. It's not only, everybody tends to look at their feet as far as alignment is concerned. His feet are actually pretty good relative to the club face, in my opinion. His hips look good, but if you look at his shoulders and his eye line, everything is aimed way left. So the shoulders are really important, and the eyes are actually even more important, because this, in actual fact, I would say that setup makes him take the club outside here. We can see there's the outside look. He's actually very flexible. He actually doesn't set the club very well either, but there's big sort of upper body rotation. It looks like he's a little reversed here. We can't quite see from this side, but not a bad position at the top, but you can see he's actually sort of twisted his head to such an extent, and so he's almost got too much turn or rotation there. We could really simplify that backswing, because then what happens now, he talks about the ball going to the right, but it looks like he's actually swinging to the left, and then just keeps the face open as a compensation. We can see the face here. And then he swings around. So actually, with a few minor changes, this could be really, really good, Rommel.
Well, let's take a look here, because I think you said a real key thing about the eyes and maybe keeping them a little more level.
Right.
It looked like he had a reverse pivot there.
Exactly. So the thing I'd like you to do there, Rommel, is to get your shoulders square and to feel like your eyes are actually looking, if anything, slightly right of target. Now, what this will enable you to do then is to swing the club back on a slightly more inside track, okay? Not in here, but just slightly inside the target line. And then you can actually simplify the backswing. I'd like you to feel that, hey, that your hands are almost shoulder height. He's a big, strong guy, Rommel. You don't need to have your hands all the way back up there. That will get you in a much better position. And as you come down then, the club will actually fall on a slightly shallower plane here. And if you can do that, I think you'll find you can go ahead and release it and actually, actually get a nice little draw going. So a few minor changes, but it looks like he's got a potential for a really good swing.
Very good. So he's got some things working. Great stuff. And now let's get back over to Annabelle and see what's coming up next.
Great stuff, David. Thanks, Brian. Few can argue about the energy and passion Jeff Costin brings to the game of golf, be it playing or teaching. And tonight, Jeff shows you several ways to transfer your energy into longer drives.
Hey everybody, my name's Jeff Costin. I have the Jeff Costin Golf Academy at Simiemu Resort in Big Bad Blaine, Washington. One traffic light and I usually run it, but just don't tell anybody, all right? We're gonna talk about how do I hit the driver further. Everybody wants to do that. One thing is most people have drivers that are too stiff for them. That's one thing, and they don't have enough loft. I'd get maybe a little shorter driver, a little softer shaft, a little more loft. That's tip number one. Tip number two is most people have their grip too much in the palm. I put it more in the fingers and a little stronger. That would allow me to hinge my wrist, and that's one power accumulator. Okay, I may look old from the neck up, from the neck down. My grandson thinks I'm a superhero. I can still hit it long, man. I got lots of miles on me, but they're highway miles, and I change my oil regularly. The next thing is what we're gonna do here is we're gonna swing from the inside. I'm standing on the side of the golf ball. ball. Most people come over the top, aim to the right with a weak grip. And so over the top, I would hit this post like that. What I want to do is I want to turn for depth so I can come from the inside. It's like ping pong. When I come from the inside, that's a speed-producing spin. When I come over the top, that's a speed-reducing spin. So I'm going to come down here, I'm going to turn and get deep, and then I'm going to swing my arms and straighten my arms as fast as I can to the golf ball. Let's do that. And so we're going to waggle looking at the target. I'm going to turn, I'm going to come from the inside, and I'm going to rock. Woo! Thanks for coming. Jeff Costin here. Work hard, have fun, enjoy yourself.
All right, when we come back, David Leadbetter is answering more of your questions rapid fire on Lesson T Live. Looks like we got a new tweet. Official Dr. J6 Julius brought back some hardware from the Crew Cup and had a great time playing golf in Scotland. Wonder what type of doctor he is.
You're kidding, right? You don't know Dr. J. Julius Irving, basketball legend?
They might not know him in Scotland either, Ansel.
I'm Australian. Come on.
Everybody knows.
Do you
the
know who
doctor.
Shane Warne is?
He bowled googly.
Is he a golfer?
He's a cricketer, please.
Cricket.
Here's 3-year-old William. Looks like he's got his swing headed in the right direction and some solid contact too. But his father wants to know when he should get started with lessons. David, what do you think is the right age for this young star?
Well, I think he's too late, because I mean, if you go to Asia, they're 6 weeks old and they're already into, taking lessons. Only kidding. 3 years old, looks like he's got a great little swing. I would just say, listen, when he's mature enough to understand and listen, that's the age. There's no set age, 5 or 6 maybe, and informally, and then maybe when he's about 8 or 9, I get into some formal stuff.
Imagine how good he'd be if he started at 2.
Exactly.
Great stuff. So we have some more questions here. Let's go to Miguel Gonzalez. Should the club exit more to the left after impact, or should it be more vertical?
Well, you know, the interesting thing is if you're hitting an iron, it wants to exit more left. If you're hitting a driver, it wants to exit maybe a little bit more right and a little bit more vertical. So I would say, hey, with an iron, swing left. With a driver, feel like it's swinging to the right.
Very cool. And next up, we've got another question. Hold on a second. This is from Thomas. Any tips to get better contact and not hitting it fat?
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of obviously little drills that you can do, but I would just concentrate initially. Just put the ball back in your stance there. Just work with a short iron and just work on hitting little punch shots. Actually, so as you hit it here, just hit it there and just hold this position. Hit and hold. It's an old drill. A lot of the golf machine people sort of use that little punch drill. And it's a great way of feeling that solid contact.
Excellent. We've got time for one more quick one here. Let's see. From Twitter, Daniel, keys on hitting wedges low.
Wedges low. Well, I mean, if you're going to hit a wedge low, you've got to make sure that your left wrist is driving. Make sure your left wrist is bowed and forward. And the other thing is, make sure your chest is on top of the ball. So chest forward, left wrist forward, you'll hit it low.
Thank you, David. Great stuff. And there's going to be more from David Leadbetter when we return to Lesson T Live.
Tweets from Golf Channel's top instructors have just come in tonight. Michael Breed says, all teachers owe Leadbetter a debt of gratitude. And Martin Hall tweeted, David paved the way for modern golf instruction. Some very touching words.
Oh, nice. Yeah, that's very nice of them. Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Appreciate
You truly
that.
are a pioneer.
Oh,
You've done so much for the
I'm
game.
that old, I mean, pioneers are old.
It's got to feel great. Such an accomplished guy, but the accomplishments continue. You've got a new book coming out. Why don't you talk about the A swing?
Yeah, I haven't written a book for 10 years, so I'm bringing a new book out called The A Swing. We've had it checked out scientifically. It's actually an easier way to swing the golf club for a lot of people, and it's sort of an evolution of what I've always believed in. So it's not something I woke up one morning and said, wow, this is a new way to swing the club. And a lot of players actually do it, and so I'm excited about it because I think it's really going to change the way people can think about learning the game and even maybe teaching the game. So it's just, the golf swing is always evolving. So it's a lot of fun writing this book.
Well, you've helped the greatest players in the world. You've also helped us, so many amateurs. You've got 28 schools around the country. That's got to be a...
Well, around the world, actually. Not around the country, around the world.
That's
so,
right.
yeah,
13 different countries.
13 different countries, yeah. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a great journey. I've enjoyed every minute of it. And, you know, we're still learning. That's the fun part about it. And it's great to see, you know, that the game is evolving from a teaching standpoint. And it's our goal as teachers to actually make this game easy to play. So we get more players playing the game. That's the goal.
Things have evolved quite a bit here at Golf Channel since you were one of the early front runners.
Yeah, talk about pioneers. I mean, Jim McLean, Dave Pelson, myself, we were the big three. Forget Arnie, Jack, and Gary. We were the big three. We were in here. I mean, we had, you know, now you got tweets. We had pigeons flying in before, you know, bringing us requests from, you know, the viewers out there. And that's how old, you know, that's how long ago that was. But it's amazing what they've done at the Golf Channel. Congratulations to them, and it's fantastic for the viewers too.
From pigeons to Lesson T Live. This is
I
beautiful.
love it. It's awesome. It's been great having you on the show.
Thank you. Thank you. Enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Thank you.
No kisses
I won't
here.
kiss
Thank
you, but thank you. It was great.
Listen, for more great tips like you've seen tonight, make sure to watch Lesson T Live Wednesdays at 8 p.m. Stick with your local PGA professional until then. Thanks from everyone here at Golf Channel.